I counted the crumpled bills in my hand. $58, I whispered. It had taken me 2 months, mowing lawns, washing cars, skipping lunch at school, to save that much. Mom called from the kitchen. "Ethan, hurry up! We're leaving for the pumpkin patch." "I'm ready," I said, shoving the money into my pocket. Jake leaned on the doorframe, grinning. "You really think one pumpkin is worth all that?" "It's not just a pumpkin," I said. "It's ours. I picked it last week. I even marked it with a tag," he laughed. "You're acting like it's a trophy." "Maybe it is," I said, brushing past him. The car ride was the usual. Mom chatting about photos, Dad humming to the radio, Jake showing off his new shoes. No one asked me anything. At the pumpkin patch, orange filled the fields like fire under the sun. Families laughed, kids ran, and I felt a rare kind of peace. I went straight to my pumpkin, the one near the fence, the one with a perfect curve. My tag was still tied around the stem. "Nice one," Mark, the guy who worked there, said. "You claimed it early," I smiled. "Been saving up for it." Jake walked up behind me. "Wow, that's actually decent. Maybe I'll take that one." "You already picked yours," I said. He shrugged. "Mom said we should get the biggest one. This one's bigger." "Jake, don't..." Before I could finish, he tore off my tag and held up the pumpkin like a prize. "This one's perfect," he shouted toward our parents. Mom turned, clapping her hands. "That's the one." "Great choice, Jake." My throat tightened. "That was mine." Dad frowned slightly. "Ethan, let your brother have it. You can pick another." "But don't make a scene," Mom said sharply. "It's just a pumpkin." I bit down on the words that wanted to come out. "Sure," I muttered. Jake grinned. "Thanks, bro. You always pick the best stuff." I walked off, pretending to look for another one. None of them looked right anymore. The laughter around me sounded distant, muffled, like I was underwater. When we reached the checkout, I tried to hand the cashier my money. Mom stopped me. No, Jake already paid." "Well, I did for him. I wanted to..." "Ethan," Dad interrupted, "just let it go. It's family money anyway." Jake gave me a wink. "Guess you can save your cash, huh?" I didn't answer. I just stared at the pumpkin in his hands, the one I'd worked for. When we reached the photo area, Mom started arranging everyone. Jake in the center, of course. "Tom, stand beside him." "What about me?" I asked quietly. She waved her hand. "You're taller. Step to the side so we can see everyone." I stepped aside. The photographer smiled. "Say cheese." Everyone did, except me. The camera clicked. Mom turned to Jake. "You look just like your father." "That's my boys," Jake laughed, patting me on the back. "You looked serious, Ethan. Lighten up." "Yeah," I said softly. "I'll try." When we walked back to the car, I lingered behind. The air smelled like cinnamon and dust. Kids were still laughing, carrying pumpkins bigger than their heads. I felt hollow. Lily, a classmate from down the road, waved as she passed. "Hey, Ethan." "That your family?" "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "They look happy." "Yeah," I said again, though my chest ached. She tilted her head. "You don't," I shrugged. "It's nothing. Doesn't look like nothing." I looked at the pumpkin Jake was loading into the trunk. "It's just sometimes it feels like I'm here, but not really." Lily didn't say anything, but her eyes softened. "You deserve to be seen, you know," I gave a weak laugh. "Not in my family." Mom called out, "Ethan, get in." "We're leaving. Coming," I yelled back. Lily smiled faintly. "See you at school." "Yeah," I said, though I wasn't sure I'd want to. In the car, Mom replayed the photos on her phone. "Jake looks amazing. We'll post the best one tonight." Dad nodded. "That'll be a great Christmas card." I leaned against the window, staring at my reflection. My face looked pale, blurred by the passing fields. Jake nudged me. "You mad about the picture?" "No," I said. "Good. You looked kind of weird back there." "I was just thinking," I said. "About what?" I turned to him. "How easy it is to erase someone from a picture." He laughed like I'd told a joke. "You're dramatic." "Maybe," I said, looking back out the window. But it's still true. The wind outside roared louder than any of their voices. And in that noise, I realized something quiet but sharp inside me had broken, and I wasn't sure it would ever heal. Mom's voice echoed from the kitchen. "Jake, you were amazing at the assembly. Everyone loved your speech." I looked up from the sink, wiping my hands. "I helped him write that speech," I said quietly. Jake smirked. "Yeah, but I made it sound good." Dad chuckled. That's confidence, son. You could learn from him, Ethan. My chest tightened. Yeah, I muttered. I guess I could. I dried my hands and left the room. Their laughter followed me down the hall. At school, even teachers compared us. Jake's brother? They'd say. You're quieter. I just don't talk as much, I'd reply. They always smiled the same way and polite, distant, like they didn't see me at all. That evening, I cleaned the garage. Jake came in holding a basketball. You done? Almost. You know Dad wants the tools arranged by size, right? He said. He hates when you mess that up. I know. He leaned against the doorframe. He says you try, but you don't finish things. I froze. Did he say that? Jake shrugged. Just being honest. Don't take it personal. I forced a smile. Thanks for the advice. He tossed the ball once, caught it, and left. When I finished, my hands were covered in dust, but I stayed there, staring at the shelves. Everything had a place except me. At dinner, Mom served steak. Jake, how was practice? Coach says I might start next game. That's wonderful, she said. Ethan, pass the salt. I passed it. Dad nodded at Jake. You've got real potential, son. Jake grinned. Thanks, Dad. Mom turned to me. And school? Fine, I said. That's good. She smiled faintly and went back to Jake. The silence after that was loud enough to choke on. Later that night, I heard laughter from Jake's room. He was video calling friends. Bro, my parents are obsessed with me, he said between laughs. They think I'm perfect. Someone on the call said something I couldn't hear, and Jake laughed harder. Ethan? Nah, he's harmless. He just does chores. Something in me burned, quiet but sharp. I went to my room, shut the door, and stared at the ceiling. The next morning, I helped Mom with groceries. She smiled. Thank you, honey. You're reliable. The word felt small, like a consolation prize. Sure. Jake walked in, still half asleep. Mom, can you wash my jersey? She nodded instantly. Of course, I looked at her. You made me wash my own last week. You're older, she said. He's busy. Right, I said. He's busy being perfect. Her smile faded. Watch your tone, Ethan, I sighed. Forget it. That night, I scrolled through social media before bed. Our family photo filled the screen, the one from the pumpkin patch, Jake in the center. Mom's arm around him. Dad grinning. Me on the far left, half my shoulder cropped out. The caption read, "So proud of our perfect boy." My throat went dry. I zoomed in until my face blurred. Then I zoomed out again. Jake had commented, "Wouldn't be me without my amazing family." I wanted to type something, a joke, a truth, anything. But I didn't. The next day, I didn't speak at breakfast. Mom noticed. Everything okay, Ethan? Yeah, you're quiet. I'm fine. Jake chuckled. You're always fine. That's your thing? Dad looked at me. You could try smiling more. People like happy energy. I stared at my plate. Sure, Dad, I'll work on that. The eggs tasted like paper. After school, Lily caught up with me. Hey, I saw your mom's post. Of course you did, I said. You look kind of sad in that picture. Guess the camera caught the truth for once. She frowned. You ever tell them how you feel? They wouldn't listen. You don't know that. Yeah, I do, I said. They only hear Jake, Lily sighed. Then talk to me instead. I smiled faintly. You sure you want that? Yeah, she said. Someone should see you. I wanted to thank her, but words stuck in my throat. That night, at dinner, Mom asked, Ethan, how was your day? Fine, Jake laughed. He's really sticking to that word, huh? Mom chuckled. It's his signature line. I set down my fork. Maybe I just don't have anything worth saying. Dad frowned. Don't be dramatic. Jake rolled his eyes. Here we go again. I pushed back my chair. You know what? Never mind, Mom's voice rose. Sit down, Ethan. But I didn't. I walked to my room and closed the door. The sound of their voices faded. I sat on the floor, phone in hand, staring at the family photo again. They were all smiling. I wasn't even looking at the camera. For the first time, I realized I'd stopped trying to be seen. I had already disappeared, and none of them even noticed. The sound of my father's voice hit me before I even walked through the door. Ethan, get in here right now. I froze in the hallway. What happened? Mom's face was red. Don't play dumb. Jake said you scratched his car. What? I stared at her. I didn't even touch his car. Jake crossed his arms, leaning against the counter. Then how do you explain the big scrape on the side? I don't know, I said. Maybe you hit something, he scoffed. Yeah, sure. You're the only one who hates that car enough to mess with it. Enough, Dad shouted. Just admit it and apologize. I didn't do it. My voice cracked. Why would I? Because you're jealous, Jake snapped. You've been weird ever since Mom posted the photo. I clenched my fists. You think I care about a photo? You do, he said. You always do, Dad's jaw tightened. Ethan, stop lying to us. I'm not lying, I said. You don't even want to hear the truth. Mom pointed at me. Don't raise your voice. You're yelling at me for something I didn't do. I shouted back. Dad slammed his hand on the table. Enough, you're grounded for a week. For what? For existing? Watch your mouth, Jake smirked. Should have just said sorry, man. I turned to him. You know I didn't do it, he shrugged. Prove it. I looked at both of them, their faces blurred by anger I didn't earn. My heart felt like it was cracking apart. You never even ask my side. You just decide I'm guilty. Dad exhaled sharply. Because every time something happens, you're in the middle of it. That's not true. Mom folded her arms. We're done discussing this. I'm done too, I said quietly. Done pretending this family's fair. I grabbed my jacket and walked out before they could stop me. Outside, the cold air burned my face. I kept walking, past the streetlights, past the neighbors' yards, until I reached the old park behind the elementary school. The swings creaked in the wind. I sat on one, gripping the cold chains. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I don't know how long I stayed there before I heard her voice. Ethan? I turned. Lily stood by the slide, a hoodie pulled over her hair. Hey, I muttered. She walked closer. You look like you just got hit by a storm. I might have, I said. Jake lied. My parents believed him, she frowned. Again? Yeah, I kicked at the dirt. He said I scratched his car. They didn't even ask. She sat on the swing beside me. Did you? I looked at her. Do you really have to ask? No, she said softly. I just wanted to hear you say it. I didn't. I swear. I know. Those two words hit harder than anything my family had said all night. I looked down. It's like no matter what I do, I'm the bad guy. Because they don't see you, she said. They see what they want to see. Yeah. The invisible brother who ruins everything. She turned toward me. You're not invisible, Ethan. You're just surrounded by people who refuse to look. I laughed bitterly. That's poetic, but it doesn't fix anything. Maybe not, she said. But it means you're not crazy. I stared at the ground. I don't even feel angry anymore. Just tired. Good, she said. Anger fades. Clarity stays, I frowned. Clarity? You finally know where you stand. I nodded slowly. Outside the picture, she nudged me with her shoulder. So step out for real. Leave? If staying keeps hurting you, yeah. I looked up at the night sky. The stars were faint but real. I don't know where I'd even go. Anywhere's better than begging people to notice you. Her words sank in deep. I let out a shaky breath. You ever get tired of fixing everyone else's mess? All the time, she said. But at least I know when to stop. I smiled weakly. Guess I don't. You will, she said. You just did. The wind blew harder, scattering leaves across the empty playground. I stood up slowly. You know what's funny? What? I used to think if I just worked harder, they'd love me more. She looked up at me. And now? I think love shouldn't need proof, she smiled faintly. There it is. Clarity. I exhaled, the tension leaving my chest for the first time in years. Thanks for finding me. I wasn't looking, she said. You just needed to be seen. I stared at her, then at the horizon where the town lights flickered. Maybe I'll stop trying to fit into their picture. Lily nodded. Then draw your own. For the first time, I believed I could. Mom burst into my room one morning, her voice full of excitement. Ethan, Jake just got the scholarship. Isn't that wonderful? I looked up from my desk. What scholarship? The state academic one, she said. You both applied, remember? My chest went cold. Yeah, I remember whispering. Jake appeared in the doorway, grinning. Guess I got lucky. Lucky, I repeated. Which essay did you use? He shrugged. The one about perseverance. My hands froze. That's mine, Jake laughed. You're kidding, right? I wrote that essay. The story about Dad losing his job and us rebuilding the shed. Relax, he interrupted. You weren't going to win anyway. I just improved it, I stood up. You stole my work. Borrowed, he said calmly. Big difference, Mom frowned. Ethan, don't start. Don't start? He literally took enough, Dad said from the hallway. Your brother earned it. Don't be jealous. Jealous? My voice cracked. He took what I made. Jake smirked. You sound bitter. I am, I said. Because I did everything right and it still wasn't enough. Dad's tone hardened. That's life, son. Move on, move on. The words echoed like nails in my head. I didn't argue. I just walked past them, straight out the door. The air outside felt heavier than usual. I walked to the old park again, my hands shaking. My essay, my words, my story, gone. Lily found me sitting under the same tree as before. Let me guess, she said. Jake again? I nodded. He stole my essay. Won a scholarship with it. Her jaw tightened.
You serious?
Dead serious. He didn't even try to hide it. What did your parents say? They congratulated him. She cursed under her breath. You should report him, I shook my head. No point. It's his word against mine. Still, you can't just let him win. I already lost, I said quietly. He made sure of it. She studied me for a moment. So what are you gonna do? I picked up a twig and snapped it in half. I don't know, but I'm done begging for fairness. That's not an answer, she said. It's the only one I have. For a while, we didn't speak. The sound of kids playing somewhere far away filled the silence. Then she said, You ever think about leaving? Every day. What stops you? I sighed. Fear, guilt. The idea that maybe if I stayed, they'd finally see me. Ethan, she said softly, they already decided who you are. I looked up at her. Then maybe it's time I decide too. Her smile was small but real. That's more like it. The next morning, I went to the pumpkin patch. Mark was stacking crates near the stand. Hey, he said. Didn't think I'd see you again. I need a job, I told him. He wiped his hands. Season's ending soon, but I could use help cleaning up. I'll take it. He studied my face. Something happened? Family stuff, he nodded slowly. That kind of stuff makes good workers. I laughed a little. Guess I'm overqualified. Start tomorrow, he said. That night, Jake knocked on my door. You mad at me or something? I didn't look up. You know what you did? He leaned against the frame. Come on, don't be dramatic. I gave you credit in my speech by stealing my words. They were good words, he said. You should be proud. I looked up at him. You were never going to win, Ethan, remember? He smirked. I just said what everyone thinks. Something inside me went quiet. Not broken, just still. I stood and faced him. You're right, he blinked. Wait, what? You're right. I was never going to win in this house, he frowned. Then why are you so angry? I'm not, I said. Not anymore, he tilted his head. What's that supposed to mean? You'll find out. For the first time, he didn't have a comeback. When he left, I sat by the window. The moonlight touched the stack of papers on my desk, new essays I'd been writing, not for grades or family approval, but for me. The silence felt different now. It wasn't lonely. It was focused. I thought of Lily's voice, steady and sure. They already decided who you are. Maybe they had. But I could still rewrite the story. The next morning, I showed up early at the patch. Mark handed me gloves and nodded. You really came. Yeah, I said. Guess I'm starting over, he smiled. Good place for that. As I worked, I realized I wasn't saving for pumpkins anymore. I was saving for my own escape, one paycheck at a time. It started with whispers in the hallway. Did you hear about Jake Walker? Someone said behind me. They're saying his essay wasn't original. No way. He's the golden boy. Principal Harris is checking it. I didn't turn around. I just kept walking, pretending not to hear. By lunch, everyone knew. Jake stormed up to me near the lockers. What the hell did you do? I looked up from my notebook. What are you talking about? He jabbed a finger at me. You told them I cheated. I didn't tell anyone anything. Bull. He lowered his voice when people started staring. You had to. Who else would know? I wasn't the only one who read that essay. I said. You submitted it. Maybe someone recognized it. He clenched his jaw. You're lying. No, I said. You are. He shoved the notebook out of my hands and walked off. Papers scattered across the floor. I didn't pick them up right away. I just watched him leave, the crowd parting around him like water avoiding fire. At dinner that night, Mom's tone was sharp enough to cut glass. Jake, I talked to your principal today. She said they're reviewing your scholarship. Jake's fork froze mid-air. It's a mistake. Someone's jealous, Dad frowned. How serious is this? She didn't say, Mom muttered. But if they revoke it, they won't, Jake interrupted. I'll clear it up. I stayed quiet, pushing food around my plate. Mom turned to me. Do you know anything about this? No, her eyes narrowed. You sure? Yes, Jake slammed his fork down. He's lying! Enough, Dad snapped. We're not fighting over rumors. Mom glared at both of us. Rumors ruin families, I almost laughed. Too late for that. The silence that followed was heavy. Dad reached for his drink, his hand shaking slightly. The smell of whiskey filled the room. Jake muttered, I'll fix it. See that you do, Mom said. That night I heard them arguing in their room. My name kept coming up. Words like jealous and ungrateful floated through the wall. I stared at the ceiling, the faint sound of their fight mixing with the wind outside. The next morning, Jake didn't look at me. His eyes were red, his voice low. If I lose this, I'm done. You should have thought of that before stealing, I said. He grabbed my shirt. You think you're better than me now? No, I said calmly. I just stopped pretending you are. He let go and walked off, shoulders hunched. Later that week, Aunt June stopped by. She looked at me like she already knew everything. Rough house lately, huh? You could say that. She poured tea, her hands steady. Your mom called me crying, I figured. She's terrified Jake's future's ruined. I took a slow sip. Maybe it's karma catching up. June gave me a small smile. And how do you feel? I don't know, I said. Relieved, maybe, but it doesn't feel like victory. Because it's not about winning, she said softly. It's about being seen. I looked at her. You think they see me now? Not yet, she said. But they're looking. The next day, Mom was on the phone all morning. This is a misunderstanding, she said over and over. My son would never plagiarize. He's gifted. I passed by quietly, heading out for work. She didn't notice me. At the pumpkin patch, Mark waved from the counter. Rough day? Rough week, I said. He laughed. Welcome to adulthood. I smiled faintly. Feels like I skipped the easy part. He handed me a crate. You didn't. You're just getting ahead. The rhythm of work steadied me, the sound of crates shifting, the scent of soil and hay. For once, life made sense. When I came home that night, the house was silent. Jake sat on the couch, staring at his phone. They revoked it, he said flatly. Mom was pacing behind him. We'll appeal. We'll find a way. Dad sat in his chair, drink in hand, saying nothing. Jake looked at me. Happy now? I met his eyes. No, he stood. You wanted this. I wanted the truth, I said. His voice cracked. You ruined everything. I didn't ruin anything, I said quietly. You did. He opened his mouth, but no words came. He just turned away. Aunt June called that night. I heard, she said softly. Yeah. You didn't say a word, did you? No, I said. Didn't have to. There was a pause, then her voice came through low and steady. Sometimes silence is the loudest revenge. I closed my eyes. It doesn't feel like revenge. It's peace, she said. For the first time, I understood. Jake cornered me in the hallway the next morning. His voice shook. They revoked it. The scholarship's gone. I looked at him. I know. You knew? I heard Mom crying on the phone. He swallowed hard. You have to help me. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. It wasn't, I said. You stole my essay. He grabbed my arm. Please, Ethan, just say it was a mix-up. They'll believe you. Why would I do that? Because we're brothers. I pulled away. That didn't stop you before. His voice cracked. I'll lose everything. Then maybe you shouldn't have built everything on a lie. He stared at me like I was someone else. You can't really hate me that much. I don't hate you, I said. I just don't care anymore, he blinked. You don't mean that. I do. He looked terrified, and for the first time I saw it, the same fear that used to live in me. Mom called from downstairs. "Boys, we need to talk," Jake sighed. Please don't say anything." I didn't answer. In the kitchen, Mom's eyes were red, her voice trembling. "They think you plagiarized, Jake. The school board's involved now." "It's a mistake," he said quickly. "Ethan can confirm it." Her gaze turned to me. "Is that true?" I took a deep breath. "No," Jake spun toward me. "What are you doing?" "The truth," I said. Dad slammed his fist on the table. "Enough games! Did you copy that essay or not?" Jake's mouth opened, then closed. Mom's voice broke. "Jake!" He didn't answer. Dad's face turned red. "You lied to all of us." "I just wanted to make you proud," Jake said. "You humiliated this family," Dad shouted. "I didn't mean to." Mom's voice cracked. "You always mean to, Jake. You just never think about the rest of us." Jake turned to me, desperate. "Say something, Ethan, please." I looked at him. "You wanted my spot. Now you can have my silence." The words hung in the air like smoke. Dad stared at me. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm done cleaning up his mess." Mom grabbed Jake's arm. "You're grounded. No phone, no car, nothing until this is fixed." Jake pulled away. "You don't get it." "Everyone knows." "I'm finished," I said quietly. "Now you know how it feels." He glared at me, eyes wet. "You think this makes you better?" "No," I said. "It makes me free." I left the room. Behind me, Mom started crying again. Dad yelled something about respect. Jake's voice broke mid-sentence. I went upstairs, shut the door, and leaned against it. My heart was pounding, but it wasn't fear. It was release. A few minutes later, Dad stormed up the stairs. The wall shook as his fist hit it. "You think you're innocent?" He shouted from the hallway. "You let this happen." I didn't answer. He pounded once more. "You ruined your brother." I whispered through the door. "No, he ruined himself." Silence followed, heavy, suffocating. Downstairs, Mom sobbed. "Tom, stop! You're scaring me." I opened my closet, grabbed my backpack, and started packing. A few clothes. My notebook, my wallet. That was it. Jake knocked softly. "Ethan?" I didn't respond. "Please," he said. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." "Yeah, you did," I said. "You just didn't think you'd get caught." He exhaled shakily. "I'm sorry, okay?" I zipped my bag. "Too late." "I'm your brother." "You should have remembered that before you used my name to climb." "I just wanted to be seen," he said quietly. I paused. "Funny, that's all I ever wanted too." He didn't speak again. The sound of his footsteps faded down the hall. I stood there for a moment, staring at the empty walls of my room, the trophies I never earned, the photos where I barely existed. Downstairs, I heard glass shatter. Mom screamed something I couldn't make out. Dad shouted again. I slung my bag over my shoulder and walked down the stairs. Mom looked up from the floor, eyes swollen. "Where are you going?" "Out," I said. "Don't you dare leave this house." I hesitated at the door. "I'm not leaving the house," I said softly. "I'm leaving the picture." She didn't understand. Maybe she never would. When the door closed behind me, the noise stopped. The night air hit my face, cool and clean. For the first time, I didn't feel invisible. I felt awake. Mark handed me a broom. "You missed a spot." I looked down at the dirt path. "You say that about every spot," he grinned. "That's because you keep missing them," I smirked. "You're lucky I need this job." He leaned on the counter. "You don't need it. You just need something that's yours." "Maybe," I said, sweeping slower. "This feels real, though. Simple." "Simple's underrated," he said. "Complicated breaks people." "Tell me about it." He nodded toward the fields. "You heading out after closing?" "Yeah, got a room near the diner. It's small but quiet." "That's better than most," he said. I smiled faintly. "It's mine!" He clapped me on the shoulder. "Good enough reason to stay." Lily showed up later that afternoon with 2 coffees. "You look alive," she said. "I thought I always did." She laughed. "No, last year you looked like someone holding their breath." I guess I finally exhaled. She handed me a cup. "You've been working non-stop." "I like it," I said. "Keeps me from thinking too much." "Thinking's not the enemy." "It used to be." She tilted her head. You still haven't talked to them? No, not even Jake? I shook my head. What would I say? Maybe nothing. Maybe that's enough. I looked out across the patch. The air smelled like hay and cold apples. You ever think about how quiet feels heavier than noise? All the time, she said. But you're learning to carry it, I smiled. Guess I am, she nudged me. You take any new photos? A few. I pulled my camera from my bag and showed her the screen. Families laughing. Kids holding pumpkins too big for their arms. Strangers caught in warm light. They're good, she said softly. They feel peaceful. I like capturing happiness I don't have to hold, I said. It's easier that way. You don't miss them at all? She asked. I thought for a moment. Maybe I missed the idea of them. The version I wanted. That's fair, she said. Grief's weird like that. Yeah, I said quietly. It's not about missing people. It's about missing chances. The wind carried dry leaves past our feet. I took another photo, her hand brushing her hair, sunlight breaking through clouds. She noticed. You're getting better. I'm getting honest, I said. She smiled. That too. The season rolled forward. Weeks passed. My hands toughened from work. My savings grew little by little. Life was quiet, predictable, and for once I liked it. One Saturday, Mark called out, Hey, you good to cover closing? Sure, I said. The sun was dipping low when I saw them. My family. They stood by the main gate, Mom holding a coffee, Dad with his usual stiff posture, Jake walking behind them. I froze behind the counter. Lily wasn't there that day. It was just me, the pumpkins, and ghosts I used to live with. They didn't see me at first. Mom was talking fast, her smile too wide. Dad looked tired, older. Jake's eyes stayed on the ground. I stepped back, half hidden behind a display. My heart didn't race. It just slowed. Mom pointed toward the same photo area from last year. Let's take one, just us again, Jake muttered. Do we have to? Dad sighed. It's tradition. They lined up in the same formation, Jake in the center. For a second, I saw the photo from before, me at the edge. Half a face in a family that never looked my way. Now I wasn't even in the frame. The photographer counted down. 3, 2, 1, smile. The flash popped. None of them looked happy. I turned away, heading toward the back lot. Mark caught my eye as he locked up. Everything good? Yeah, I said. Just old ghosts, he nodded. They don't haunt you unless you let them. I think they already haunt themselves, I said. As the lights dimmed, I stood by the fence, camera in hand. From far away, they looked like strangers, silhouettes under a fading sky. Jake glanced my way for a second. Maybe he saw me, maybe not. It didn't matter. For the first time, I felt nothing, not anger, not sadness, just quiet. I raised my camera, focused the lens, and clicked once, a perfect picture. But this one was mine. The package arrived on a rainy afternoon. The label said, From June Walker. I hadn't heard from Aunt June in over a year. Mark looked over as I carried it inside the pumpkin stand. Fan mail? Something like that, I said, brushing off the wet paper. He grinned. You gonna open it or stare at it till spring? I'll open it later. Suit yourself, he said, walking out to lock the gates. When the door shut, I tore the tape. Inside was an old wooden frame wrapped in brown paper. A note sat on top, you always belonged. They just didn't see it. My hands went still. I unwrapped the frame and saw the photo, the pumpkin patch. The one that started it all, but this time it was different. I wasn't cropped out. I was in the middle, smiling awkwardly, sunlight catching the edge of my face. I whispered, How did she even get this? Lily walked in just then, rain dripping from her coat. What's that? A ghost, I said. From the past, she laughed softly. Looks like a family photo. It was. I handed it to her. I thought I was at the edge that day. She studied it. You are. But look at the reflection. I leaned closer. In the metal trim of the frame, my reflection sat right in the center. Not cropped, not hidden. I almost laughed. Guess even glass can tell the truth, she smiled. You've changed, Ethan. I don't feel changed, I said. Just quieter. That's what growth sounds like. I set the frame on the counter. She wrote that I always belonged. Do you believe that now? I looked at the photo again. Maybe I never needed to. Lily sat on a crate. You still miss them? Sometimes, I said, but not in the way I used to. I miss who I thought they were. That's different, she said. I know. The rain outside softened to a drizzle. The smell of earth filled the air. I poured us 2 cups of coffee from the thermos. You ever think about what comes after the breaking point? She sipped her cup. Yeah, it's called living, I nodded slowly. I spent years trying to fit into a picture that never had space for me. And now? Now I take my own pictures, she smiled. You really like that camera, huh? It's honest, I said. It shows what's there, not what people pretend to see. She looked around the empty stand. You've built something here. It's small, I said. But it's mine. That's enough, she said. It always was. A silence fell, warm, not awkward. I picked up the frame again. You know, I used to stare at photos like this and feel hollow. Now I just feel grateful. For what? For getting out before I disappeared completely, Lily nodded. You didn't disappear. You started over, I smiled faintly. Guess that's one way to put it. She glanced at the door. You think you'll ever go back? I already did, I said. That day I saw them here again. It didn't hurt anymore. What did it feel like? Like watching an old movie I'd already memorized. Familiar but distant. She looked at me with that half smile of hers. You talk like someone who finally learned the ending. Maybe I did. We finished our coffee in silence. When she left, I stayed behind, the frame still on the counter. The rain stopped. The clouds broke just enough to let light through the window. It hit the glass and cast my reflection across the wall. Me, older, calmer, still standing. I hung the photo near the window. The nail squeaked a little. For a second, I imagined Mom's voice saying, "Step aside, Ethan." But this time, I didn't move. I looked at the smiling boy in the picture, the one who thought being seen meant being loved, and whispered, "You made it." The wind outside rattled the windows, then settled. I turned off the lights, leaving only the photo glowing in the soft orange from the sunset. It wasn't a reminder of what I'd lost. It was proof of who I'd become. My story didn't end with betrayal. It began with it.